I've already started with some of the simple things. Just, we're talking about general maintenance. I've seen through just working with the guys and working with the people in the community that some of this stuff is, I guess for lack of a better word, some neglect. And so what we're trying to do now is we're trying to get into some of these smaller areas where we can have that impact. And we're going through and we're cutting, trimming, weed eating. And some of you may see us out on the roadways, along the curbing, along the edging, cutting back some of that grass, weed eating, getting rid of some of that dirt debris. And that's because some of our roadways actually carry some of that storm water. So if we've got silt and dirt and stuff along those curbs, that water can't run through there. We dam it up and we end up affecting somebody upstream. So you're seeing us do some of that simple stuff and some of that simple maintenance. We're also starting to do a little more of the complicated stuff and I guess a little bit more of the boots on the ground stuff. And what we're trying to do is start downstream. Because before we make too many changes upstream, we need to really focus on what we're doing downstream. Because if we do too much upstream and start getting that water to flow upstream without worrying about what we're doing downstream, when it gets there, we're going to end up flooding everybody else, i.e. the individuals that live around Pecan Park, all the way up through out towards that churches area, and the same thing over by the wastewater treatment plant where we have all those houses out in those subdivisions where it drains out that way. So although we're doing some of the smaller stuff upstream, we're starting over here by, and I know that the hike and bike trail has been mentioned quite a bit tonight, but we're starting in some of those areas. And we're looking at cleaning some of those areas up. And to be honest with you, I'm a little embarrassed to say, but under that hike and bike trail, there are these two large concrete drainage boxes. Well, when I first walked there, I said, hey, let's go walk that box and see if there's any buildup, any silt, any debris. And the guys tell me, you know, there's two of them over there, right? And I was like, no, there's only one. And they're like, well, no, you just can't see the second one. So that automatically is a red flag. So we're starting in those areas. We're going to start cleaning that up hopefully next week. Come back through. And interestingly enough, as I was studying the firm maps, found out that, well, that area right there is part of our 100-year or 1% flood. Even more specific than that, right smack dab in the middle of Pecan Park is not only part of the 100-year flood area, that's our actual main floodway. So what have I done? I went out there, took a few pictures of what we have, and just like we thought, we have a lot of silt buildup. Okay, so under 97, TxDOT's put in a couple of nice concrete boxes, and that gets that water running. You're going to find that square boxes carry more water than your actual round, either concrete or metal culvert pipe does. Well, they've got those nice square boxes, and as you come down in our areas, we've got that nice jogging trail. We find that we have 8-inch PVC pipe, and there's 3 of them. And in between those 3 pipes, we have solid concrete. Well, what we've actually done is we've dammed that area up, where TxDOT's getting that water through there as fast as they can, and then we're slowing it down. So then again, I get kind of nosy, and I ask a few of the joggers who automatically reach for the pepper spray because I'm a stranger walking up to them. And I ask them, hey, do you jog here often? Absolutely. Well, do you ever notice during a rain event, what does it look like afterwards when you come and jog? Oh, well, we can't jog because it's dammed up, and if it gets high enough, it falls over our track. So there's our first red flag. And what I'm proposing to do, and unfortunately I don't have the numbers back yet, as I'd like to be able to get some of those areas, because right there in that floodway, we have not only 1, not only 2, not 3, but 4 areas where we actually dammed that up. So when you dam that up right in the smack dab in the middle of our floodway, all of that stuff has nowhere to go but all the way back. And we're talking about all the way back, possibly, the way we looked at it, those areas. So first and foremost, we need to start working from that hike and bike, come back, take a look at what it's going to cost, because ultimately, I don't think the project is going to be out of the ballpark, but I still think it's going to be a number large enough that needs to come to council so that we can decide on that. And the cheapest way to do that, because I'm obviously gonna wanna do this once and get it over with, is I'm gonna push for those box culverts, because they're gonna push the most water possible. But what I would push for is the pour in place, because anytime you prefab that concrete, that drives the cost up. If we can pour that in place, form them up, and get those poured in place, it'll be more cost effective.
And we could do all of this in-house, right? Correct?
I believe so, sir.
Yeah.
I believe so. Also, I want to talk a little bit about the skate park. And the reason I want to talk about the skate park is because just on the other side of that, we've got all that concrete, we've got all those new buildings, we have, some hotels and things like that. And I think that at that skate park, at one point in time, someone had gotten the idea of creating a detention pond there. And that's a great idea. And the reason it's a great idea is because, as you well know, that school district building, well, they built up on stilts. Well, why did they build up on stilts? Because they are right in our floodplain as well. And that 1% flood, where does it end up flooding? Right there where they built that building. So they did the right thing, they built up. So unfortunately, we couldn't all do that. But that's a prime location to create some detention. And I don't mean hold it forever, I mean just regulate how we get that out of there, because of that development, all those other drainage areas and all of those spillways that we have and open ditches, they're all now undersized. And because we have only X amount of right of way, we're only going to be able to get that water out of there so fast. So another recommendation that I'm going to bring numbers with me as well is what it's going to cost and the possible size needed for that detention pond. And again, say we get 5 inches of rain. If we can regulate how fast that water makes its way through there, then we don't necessarily have to flood out every time we get rain. That being said, there are a few other areas, 1 or 2 other detention ponds that currently exist further upstream that are sufficient size. However, I'm reaching out to some of these individuals and some of these companies because I feel that there's some maintenance needed, and some of them may be a little unkept. I believe that will also help us, because if they can stay maintained and clean, that water can be detained, and not seek other areas to drain through. Also, going back to the Pecan Park side, as you go further, I guess, towards 181, you find that a lot of those culverts and a lot of those ditches are way undersized. Whether they were that way from the very beginning or through time and erosion, I found that there's a lot that needs to be done in those areas. There's a lot of silt removal that needs to go on there. And next week what we're going to do is we're actually going to go out there, stake some stuff off, shoot some grades, document our findings on those stakes as we come down, so that we can go back through and find out where we need to cut, where we need to add. My suspicions state that we probably need to add nowhere, because as we have erosion upstream, that stuff settles right there in our floodplain. So we all know, because of that silt, you start damming that up, it goes further back, you have those undersized. I also found a place just upstream of there where the water has nowhere to go, and it just sits there and churns, until it finally waits long enough, drains enough, and then it finally makes its way through. Again, where are we finding that issue? Where we have these round concrete culverts, they are setting lower than the actual flood level or actual drainage level, so the water has trouble getting to it, and we've got all those issues there, and they end up in our homes. So again, those are some areas that I'm trying to get some pricing. We're actually shooting some grades, shooting some elevations to try and make sure that water has the least amount of restriction to get through there. How are we going to do this? Go ahead, Councilman.
I know Councilman Johnson and we found some areas that were really, really bad that need to be already done ASAP. I mean, they're this far from the road. Yeah, he just mentioned those 2 areas right now. I would like for those to be worked before anything else. If someone falls there, it would be something really, really pretty bad there.
already falling in there.
Oh, I understand traveling.
Yeah, no,
And those two locations would be prime candidates for some concrete head walls and some wing walls and things like that. So we get the work done, we get everything back together, we get the earth and soil put back, and we move on. We don't have to worry about that area again, unless we want to go back and upsize some of those culverts. There's a few ways to do that. Again, I mentioned the simple cleaning and simple maintenance, and then we're going to have some other issues to tackle, and we're going to have to decide. There are going to be some areas where we can't just go back and place earth and soil, because we're going to be having to tackle that erosion issue again. And some of those areas, and once I get some pricing, I will come back to city manager and then the council and discuss it, but we're going to be looking at things like concrete in some areas, gunite in other areas, riprap, and now TxDOT has something that they like to use, and it's called a reventive map. And the reason TxDOT uses it is because, one, it's efficient and effective, and they can buy more for their dollar. And all that is concrete that you roll out. It's all held together with mesh, and it's probably the shape of an octagon with a hole in it, almost like a donut. And what that allows, the place you said it, what it allows it to happen is it gives something for the dirt to anchor to, but it also allows that grass to grow through. And then you'd sit there and cut it or mow it just like any other drainage area. And you keep that soil, you keep that grass growing, and you keep the dirt. But it's the most bang for your buck. So I'm going to bring some of that to your table as well, and see if that might be something that could facilitate some of our needs.
I gotta see if we can get somebody licensed to spray our sidewalks instead of having to weed eat them all the time.
Absolutely.
It would be a lot less work for the city employees, and to maintain it easier.
Absolutely. Right now, some of those areas we did clean yesterday, and we did spray herbicide. However, that is a good point. If we can get somebody licensed, we can use a more effective herbicide, something that can last a little longer than just your typical eraser or your typical Roundup. The last thing that I want to talk to you briefly about is some of these subdivision areas that have drainage issues. I've been going out and listening to citizens, and some of the biggest issues that we have is I'm running into, well, the city used to clean this drainage area. Okay, well, let me go back, let me check some documentation, let me find some drainage easements. Oh, well, there aren't any. Okay, well, then how did this happen? How did we do this? Well, word of mouth. My grandmother owned the property, my father owned the property, and they told the city, hey, you come in and do it. Well, that's a problem, because without that paper trail, it's going to create a unique situation. You know, it's got to come to council, we have to decide on that. And the worst of these is, where you've got some of these drainage areas between houses, they go nowhere. I can't tell you how many countless times already I've gone to visit a citizen, and there's a drainage area between two houses, and it flattens out and dies on a fence, on a privacy fence or something like that. So the water, even if it makes its way between the houses, at some point has nowhere to go. So those are some of the more unique issues that we're going to try and, I guess, quarterback, so to speak, and figure out.
Or try this one. In front of my house, my neighbor, the water runs directly underneath the house like a stream.
That's right. That story, Councilman, is the third time I've heard that exact scenario where, hey, the water drains right underneath my house. So those are going to be a little more unique, and based on the area, if we were in or outside the floodplain, that'll dictate or determine the best solution. So I'm sorry that it was brief, it was quick. I have plenty more information, but if there are any questions now, I'll entertain those.
Thank you for taking the time to
Yeah, and I
give
just
us
want
the issues.
to say a big thank you to supervising the cleanup of the cemetery. We get comments now that are so sweet and so great, so thank you for supervising that. Thank you to our Parks Department, thanks for the supervision of getting that done, because it has made a world of difference, and to hear the wonderful compliments that are being said, I really appreciate that.
Especially on the roads, they're saying, hey, I'm not in that hole no more.
Thank you, Councilman. I'll make sure I pass
I
that on
wanted
to
to add one more thing too, I'm sorry. But you're talking about the skate park and the retention pond there.
Yes, sir.
And I hope you know, the Parks Foundation already did a little bit of legwork on designing a larger retention pond, I believe. So if you haven't gotten with them, you might want to.
Yes, sir, and that's a good point, because I did meet with them on Tuesday, and I also briefly met with Intrepid today, and we went over and discussed some of those upgrades. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you got that big old machine too.
I forgot to mention, thank you,
I
Council.
think you can make a turn in there.
Thank you. Well, we also recently purchased a grader, which is great because it allows us to get into some of those tight areas and clean some of that silt out of there without compromising the citizen or the employee. And also, there's a whole world of attachments you can buy. You can buy something with an actual hinge, so you can pick up brush out of culvert areas, so we no longer have employees down in those culverts. Clean up some of those spillways. Can add a shredder to that arm, so you can cut down into some of those hard to reach places. So we're really excited to get that piece of equipment.
Great, thank you. Any more comments or? All right, thank you so
Keep up
much.
the good job.
Appreciate it. Keep
Council,
up-
thank
yeah,
Hey, be
thank
careful
you.
with the heat with the guys. It's hot.
Moving on to our next presentation, the Gigabyte City. I know the city manager has an update, or someone has an update. Mayor and City Council, I know this is the first time we heard about Gigabyte City. We have met initially with a company called iWire 365. And recently they came back and talked to us again with EEC. And a follow-up to that meeting, I believe the city secretary set out for a July 6th meeting that they're going to have to come back and have more representatives. But basically, what we're asking is probably a partnership between the city of Floresville, iWire, and EEC to do the last mile, which happens to be the last connection. I had the misunderstanding that it was actually the last mile, but it's more so like the last connection. And so as we look at doing that, and I have met with Phelps, and they're interested in doing it because, you know, we don't have a lot of sidewalks in Floresville. And so Phelps would definitely have to be a partner. GVEC may be one of the providers. They have talked to them. And so what I have for you here are samples of an agreement, samples of an ordinance that following some meetings we may be asking the city council to consider. Now, Councilman Silva has taken the lead on this one. He probably can talk more tech than I can, but this is something that the city of Floresville needs. It will definitely give us high-speed internet, not only to our businesses, which they have said that they need to have, but also to our residents. We have the school district who has internet. They have Time Warner, which is now Spectrum. So during the day, the children have all the access they need during the day. However, when they go home, they cannot, some people do not and cannot access the internet because it's just not available. I can speak on a personal note, and my husband reminds me this all the time. I do not have DirecTV because I can't get it because my apartment doesn't face north. And so no matter what I can pay, I can afford DirecTV, it's just not available. And so in this day and age, to have something that's just not available, we need to get out of the dark ages, and I know Councilman Silva has really championed that. So I would ask and encourage you all to come to the meeting on July 6th. And of course, everything always comes down to money. We have met, and I have talked briefly to your attorney, and it talks about a profit sharing, because my main concern is that they have put out some numbers, using another city that's a lot larger than we are. They put out some number that they can make somewhere between $8 to $16 million if they're able to do that. And I'm saying, with that, there should be a profit sharing for the city of Floresville and or EDC. And it should be, of course, some franchise agreement for the city of Floresville. And so those are the things that we'll be talking about negotiating for. Again, EDC will be having a meeting July 6th at their meeting to talk to some of the proprietors and owners of iWire 365. And we're hoping that we can sit down and put something together, because we wanted to say that we want to have to be a Gigabyte City by the year 2020, and it is definitely doable. Do you have any questions?
So the meeting is July 6th, is that? I will probably have to post an agenda.
We can, we can post an agenda in case it's for a joint meeting, but EDC is having a meeting at 6:30 on July 6th.
Social gathering one, I guess
It's
it's a meeting by NBC.
I would still post it as a workshop or something like that. There won't be any action, but if, like we see, if a quorum doesn't show up, you can just attend anyway. If quorum does show up, then it can operate as a workshop at the FEDC meeting.
I will be hosting a workshop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have, our next item agenda item, is item 3D, hospital well update, M&S Engineering.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Nancy Turner with M&S Engineering. And I wanted to provide a brief update of the hospital well rehab project. And what I have, you better tell me because I can't hear myself out there. Thank you. So what I have is, what you have in your packet is just a handout to kind of briefly overview what happened with the hospital well and the status of it today. On the first page there, I'm going to refer to the bottom bullet. Basically, the most important thing is that the hospital well has been chlorinated, tested, and put into service as of May 24th. So water is being used from it, it's back online, and everything is good with it. What caused this was an inspection that was conducted in January, and that showed that the screens in the well were clogged 90%, and that had been touched in many, many years and needed to be rehabbed. So that was the purpose of the project. If you flip the page, you can see the well screen comparisons. The first one is a new well screen that has not been installed in a well at all or used. The next one is the hospital well screen that was blocked at 90%. I'm really surprised at the volume of water that was coming out of that well when it was in use. And then the third photograph is after the well rehab was completed. You can see the little screen holes have been cleaned out and cleared, and so much more volume of water can be brought through that well now and into your city distribution system. The next slide is just a summary of all of the well repair activities that the contractor did. I'm not going to bore you with all of those details unless you want me to, but that slide is there if you want to refer to it. Then the last one, basically, it increased the capacity greatly in that well. And to be more specifically, from I've got here 15 gallons per minute per vertical foot, and now it is producing 6,250 gallons per minute per vertical foot. That's a huge increase, and such a great thing that could be done.
Nancy, if I may, I just want to point out to the City Council, because we do have some USDA items later on in the agenda. This well had been identified when we did our USDA water request in our specifications when we asked for our application. And the USDA is allowing us to, they will reimburse us when we get through that part, because they understood that we could not wait until we went through the whole process to wait. So we had to pay upfront to do this, but the USDA has approved for us to be reimbursed out of the emergency money that we're going to be receiving, because they did deem this as an emergency project. Is that correct? That's correct.
Does this one have the generator on it too? Or is that
It has a generator, but it can't operate the well all by itself.
But that's what a generator is going to be replaced once you get the
Yes,
USDA
that is
money.
one of the things with the USDA is to do a generator. If not a state one that's stationary, one that can definitely have a port that can go between the different wells. And again, hospital well, to remind some of the council, is our oldest well, it is our largest well. The other wells, it takes two of them to function, but we have a really hard time with hospital wells down.
Any questions on the repairs of the hospital well? I have the back in order.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Moving on to our water report.
Okay, in your packages and for the public here, some in the back table, everyone will be receiving one of these. This is a requirement of TCQ that we must send out every year. It looks a little different this year. Sometimes you see before it's been in a pamphlet. that we mail to you. But this year, we decided to do something a little bit different. We're having them sent out in our Wilson County News. We'll be delivering them to everyone's residence. They will give me an affidavit that they are received. It is required for us to have this done before July 1. And so we have a report here that lists the well, and of course we refer to our engineers to give us the important part. But the thing I really wanted to say is that the city of Floresville rating for our water rating is that we did receive a superior rating. We are really proud of that. We have some signs that we'll be installing along 97. We had signs before that had faded away, but we did receive a requirement of a superior rating, and so we're really proud of that. It is on the internet, so you can look it up if you'd like to. But I just wanted to let you know what this looks like, and we also will have this on our webpage as well. But it is a requirement that we must do annually. We'll have extra copies at City Hall if you care to have someone pick them up. They will be available at the front counter.
Just real quick, I did notice one thing on the third column at the bottom. States time period of January through December 2016, our system lost an estimated $116 million, but then it goes on to say gallons of water.
Oh, I'm sorry, should have been gallons of water. And that's one of the things that we're hoping that our USDA water will help us do, so that we will not lose so much water, because we're losing way too much water.
So to be clear, that's gallons of water, not dollars
It's
and
gallons.
gallons. Okay.
It's gallons, I'm sorry.
It's a lot of money.
A
lot of water, too. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And next agenda item, presentation 3F, coming up, our July 1st event. Mr. Chaz Bettis.
Evening, Mayor, Council. Okay, quick update. We're about a little over a week away for July 1st, our Freedom Fest, our second annual. So far, everything's put into place with our